Have you ever experienced a God wink? You know, the kind of experience you know without a shadow of a doubt that God stepped in and gave you a big old wink from heaven. I'm your host, Cindy Spar, broadcasting from Office Evolution in Troy, Michigan. I am the founder of My Collective Network and My Christian Business Network, two amazing business networking organizations. I am a firm believer that there is power in sharing God wink stories. Think of it as a way for people to shine their light on Jesus, one wink at a time. In Matthew 5:14, it says, "You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden. Nor do people light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a stand, and it gives light to all in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father who is in heaven." All right, everyone. Thank you so much for dialing in today. My name is Cindy Spar, and I'm the host of the God Wink podcast. And I am super excited. I'm going to tell you guys right now, I just met this gentleman. I met him on the street. No.
Kind of. It was one of those weird things, those weird introductions.
Exactly. Yeah, we met virtually thanks to, and I'm trying to think of the previous introduction, who it was. It's like, oh, you got to meet this Carol Ward.
Yes, Carol Ward.
It's Carol. It seems like it's always Carol.
Yep.
So we're going to give that little shout out. Carol Ward from Franet Marketing for Franchise Consulting. Thank you so much for this introduction. Going in today, I actually met this gentleman because he has a podcast, okay? So I'm learning as a podcaster that you want to interact with other podcasters, sharpen your own saw through these, meeting these people, and get them on your podcast.
Yep.
And it is quite refreshing because you know what you're doing. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, good. We'll go with that. We'll go with that.
So I'm going to put you up on a pedestal right now. When we came in and we started recording, I'm used to having a headset on and making sure that the sound's good. And I was ready to dive into it with him. And when he sat down, I was like, let's go. And then I'm realizing we don't even have our headset on right now. And I didn't even check your volume. And as soon as we did it and he talks into the mic, I'm like, you sound like a radio host or something.
Been there. I was at one time in my life.
Were you?
Yes, I was.
Oh, my gosh. You probably told me that. I missed that part.
Nope, I don't tell a lot of people that.
Oh, got it.
Yep.
Well, why don't you tell people that?
Well, it's one of those things I did in college.
Oh, say no more. Okay.
Right.
Well, okay, we know that about you. So tell us a little bit more. Who are you?
Well, my name is Steve Doyle. I actually am an entrepreneur, a master business coach that focuses on commercial construction. We focus on people, process, and technology, which is really awesome and also can be frustrating for people. But if we have faith, we can get through anything.
Amen.
So, amen to that. So that's it in a nutshell. What I am, what I do. I'm married, got two daughters. They're teenagers. Well, one's 16 and one's almost a teenager. So we have that going on in our house.
My goodness. Mm-hmm. I'll be praying for you.
Yeah, I do every day. Every day. It's a new adventure. But, as they get older, we can have conversations. We can go do things. And it's actually kind of fun now.
Oh.
Now that we can actually do certain things. But, everyone has their moments, including myself. So we have that at home. And then, you've mentioned that I am a host of a podcast. It is in the blue collar space, and we focus on why we can't find good people in the blue collar space, which is a myth.
Okay.
So we really focus on a lot of those things. So it's really cool.
It's kind of funny how people will say, I can't find anybody good, but they don't take that internal look of, well, what are some things that you are capable of doing is there something you need to change doing? Is that kind of what leads into this piece that you talk about on the podcast?
Yeah. So actually, we talk generational, because it's always typically the Gen X and the boomers that, the older people, the guards, if you will, that have established process. They know what they want, a history of doing the things that they do, and they do it really well, but they don't like change. Oh. And they want everyone to abide to what it is they say, what it is they do, and being kind of in that Gen X area.
Yeah.
I'm more on the younger side, but I'm still solid in there.
Yeah.
And we are set in our ways, and it's pretty much, if you don't adapt and you're not willing to accept maybe a different philosophy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't go well, because people are not signing up for what you signed up for.
Or they come in and you don't keep them because they're like, I feel like I'm just being told everything what to do, and there's no allowance for creativity or, flexibility in it.
Flexibility is a big one, because it's very structured, very rigid in the thought process for those that have always done it a certain way. So when you come in and somebody comes in and like, why do I actually need to be here for 8 hours if you don't have 8 hours of work for me?
It sounds like my husband.
Right? Why do I need to sit here and twiddle my thumbs?
Yeah.
I'm more productive maybe at 9 p.m. So why do I need to be here at 10 a.m.?
Oh.
Why can't we figure something out?
Yeah. You could get more production out of people if you had some flexibility in it.
Yeah. So we work with businesses on those types of things as well.
That is so good.
Yeah.
So what is your podcast then goes through what tell us more, different businesses?
So since we focus on the trades, we bring in anybody that is typically anybody that's trade related. So it could be HVAC companies, electricians, carpenters, builders, general contracting firms. We would then have people that are in commercial like land management, any insurance agents, anything that touches in the blue collar space, to talk through what are those trends, what are people seeing, and what are they doing to help combat and address we can't find good people. So we always talk about what is the problem the industry has. So it's honestly it's really about serving the industry with, hey, here are some people that are doing things differently. Maybe you can think about doing things differently. Mm-hmm. These are the steps that they're taking. And if you want to know how to contact them, here you go.
Oh. And man, the trades really go through it, I feel like.
Yeah.
Like they're like, I just can't find good people.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you think about this. If you, as a homeowner or somebody that needs something done, and you call somebody, do they show up? Yeah. Do they show up? Half the time they don't.
Yeah.
They don't even return your call.
It's kind of laughter of like, you're lucky.
Yeah, you're really lucky. And then those that do come out, sometimes they know what they're doing and sometimes they don't. And you kind of can weed right through that. And you're like, okay, why? And then you hear their sob story about, well, I'm working so hard. I'm working so many hours. I can't find anybody. Uh-huh. Okay, what are you actually doing to do that? Because now you're venting your frustration to the homeowner who doesn't care because they have a problem. They need something fixed. They need you to show up when you say you're going to show up. You don't show up. So now there's a bad rap between all of that. Now homeowners have taken it upon themselves to actually learn and do things. So now trades are also mad. They're also mad because now there's more people in the area in their field competing for business, and it's there's so much work. It's like whatever, but that is also changing now too, because it's no longer hey, I show up, I get work. Now we're starting to fall back to, hey, there's more people. Mm-hmm. Now when you pick, now there's, instead of you being the only one showing up, now there's 3 people. Now you have to bid. Yeah. And you're like, oh.
I used to be the only one.
I used to be the only one. I could set my price. I could do this. So yeah, we work through those types of things. And then with some of the other, our show, we kind of do a guest one-time riff the two of us riff on another one.
Oh.
And then so every other week is it depends on the topic. So we'll pick, and we always pre-record our shows. So none of them are live, which
do people still do that?
Live?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I do them. I'll get on a show live.
You guys are bold.
We'll get on a show live, and it's just like you just go. You just
it's authentic. Non-edited are
right. You just kind of like, if you're gonna say the word instead of saying the word you go shut your mouth and think for a minute. It's a purposeful pause.
Oh yes, that's it. I remember you telling me about that.
Yeah, you just kind of go, I really don't know where I'm gonna go. So we're just going to wing it. And that's what we do when we go live. You just kind of
riff it.
You just kind of have that awkward, just momentary, like my brain I just shut down. And you just move on.
It works so well. I remember they coached us at Walgreens when I was in HR. They had video. They'd do video, record us doing a presentation. And we all had our own ums and likes. They said, just slow down.
Yep.
Let your brain process. Like, that works. Oh my gosh, that works.
It works, and then you get all excited, and then you start talking like a mile a minute, and everybody can't really understand where you're going, and you're just like, because you're so excited because things just started coming to your brain. But then when you slow down, it's like, it actually makes sense.
Yeah. You gotta give it some time.
Right. Right.
So tell us. Now, you actually introduced, when we were on Zoom, you were like, hey, oh my gosh, this whole God wink thing, that's really cool. And we were like, you're like, it's like testimonials, and people giving these testimonials. We did that at our church.
Yes,
in essence. And I was so excited when you're like, go on our YouTube. Let me show you, on the website, go to the YouTube, go in the month of May, or I forget what it was. And people at your church were telling their own potentially testimonials / God winks.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
I wish more churches would put that on YouTube.
Yeah. It would be very interesting. It comes from an abundance mindset. And so with our church, it's way more, people have more of an abundance mindset. They're willing to share. And the reason they're willing to share is because we view the church as a border without walls. And so we go and talk to other people. It's kind of just like this. We're just having a conversation. We're not here trying to convince somebody like you need to be faithful. No, it's just having a conversation about how God impacts you in your life, how it impacted your family, and what it really means as a community when that happens, when more people are sharing.
Yeah.
Because the more we can share, and unfortunately right now in the world, we get crucified, if you will, on social media for sharing our faith.
Yeah.
Which is extremely unfortunate. When we can share our faith and we can confide in others, we grow. And we get the feeling we can't grow anymore because, Christianity and whatever
the walls come back up.
The walls come back up. Whatever your faith is, whatever you believe is being shunned by the mainstream media. And why? For what purpose?
Yeah.
There's no purpose other than fear.
Why would God put you through something of an experience not to open your mouth and share?
Right. And that's the whole thing with what he is saying, with what's written in the Bible. It is about sharing. It is about speaking the word to people. And it's whether it's children, it's, adolescents, it's teenagers, it's adults, it's those that are aging. Everybody wants connection.
Yes. You want to relate.
And that is the one thing that I personally have found, that yes, you can deepen a connection by sharing your faith with someone. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of gives you goosebumps when you when you get to that point. And it's like for me, those are those little God winks when you can sit down and have those conversations with people and be authentic and sharing that. And it's just like, yeah, you were meant to be here. Like this moment in time, you were put here for this moment in time just to share that with this person.
Yeah. Because they all lead too. Right.
Yeah, so that is when our church started doing that, and we were intentional with doing that. Not everybody signed up to do, they're like, no, I'm not going to go up there and say that. But as more people did, we had all age groups doing it. We had high schoolers sharing. We had, which would seem really odd to have high schoolers sharing, experiences about their faith and what the church actually means to them.
Yeah.
Then we had, those that were in their young, their 20s. We had those that were in their 30s, their 40s, all the way up into their 80s, sharing. And it was, we openly praised that because it's like, this is what this community means to these people.
Right.
And the more we can share that and share those stories with people, the legacy lives on for the Word of God.
Yeah. And two, you talk about only so many, right? Like, and some may have felt like in the beginning, oh man, I would like to share my story. But I want to hit on something that I'm seeing more and more happening.
Yeah.
I think I talked to you about this, is spiritual warfare.
Oh, yeah.
Because the enemy doesn't want you to open up your mouth and expose them, right? So I was sharing with you how on this God wink, people have always thought that, Cindy, it must come easy for people to share their God wink stories because God's doing things all the time, and I've got all kinds of God winks. But when it came down to it, I'd say, oh my goodness, like, Stephen, I would love to have you on the podcast. Would you share your story? And you're all into it. Emotions are high. And you're like, yeah.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. And then I started seeing people that I'd say, I'm going to shoot you a link. We can get it scheduled, get you in the studio. And then poof, they're gone.
Yep.
Poof, they're gone. And I'm like, what is happening here? I don't get it. And I really started to see things in a whole new way. I'm like, this is part of spiritual warfare.
Yep.
Part of it. I mean, some people are just like not responsible and they're just like, I forgot, whatever,
right.
But a lot of these was like, some opened up and said, I just started thinking about it. And if a certain family member hears me share this, it could be bad, or a certain person, or this could affect my job, or all the fears start coming
Correct.
in.
Yeah. Is what we talked about a little bit earlier. And it truly comes down to the warfare that people have brought on about people of faith. And it really doesn't matter if it's what faith you practice. It truly does. There is a fear for whatever that is going on right now. Just a growing thing on social media, out in the public, on the news media, that we continue to suppress that. And we have to recognize, like, yes, there is this quote unquote, we can say warfare, but there is a depression of putting our voices out there.
Yeah.
And we have to be strong, like Jesus was, to really put our faith out there and say, you know what, God's got this.
Yeah.
And as long as we don't put this out there back in the form of warfare, but more in the form of grace, that, you know what, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you and I don't see eye to eye on every little thing. There's one thing that we see eye to eye on, and it's a faith.
Yeah. Hashtag politics.
Right? Wait, this isn't a political show. Wait, that's our podcast. And I like to go down that route. All right, let's bring politics in. Let's go. But no, it's just unfortunate. But if we dwell in that unfortunate part, we can't get past what goodness comes from spreading the word.
Yeah.
And so it's hard, but we have to recognize and we have to forgive. We have to forgive those that put us in that spot, but we also have to forgive ourselves for being part of that mindset. Like, oh, I have so much fear around this. Okay, what is there to fear?
Yeah.
Somebody no longer likes you. Somebody's going to unlike you on social media. Good. I don't need your negative energy. I don't need you in my life. Peace out, Girl Scout. Let's go.
God's helping you. You don't realize it, but he's helping you.
He's actually helping remove negative people from your life that don't need to be there.
Yeah.
Right? And, we talk... There's some of us that talk about, when we come into people's lives, people are maybe meant for a moment. Maybe they're meant for a period of time. Maybe they're meant for a lifetime. Yeah. But we come into different people's lives at different moments for different reasons. And sometimes those people that we fear, like, oh, well, who's going to see this? I might lose. Okay.
Yeah.
It's a moment in time, and we can recover from that.
And they're not afraid.
No. They're not afraid to tell you their thoughts and their feelings. So, right?
I think if we saw it in a different way, too, of I'm just going to get down to it. If we saw it in a matter of how God sees it and its souls, and if it was that one thing that you would have said that would have helped someone cross over, then maybe that fear will dissipate a lot quicker.
Right.
So tell yourself that. Like, okay, I'm fearing this, praying, God, am I supposed to do this? If you feel like I just need to speak up and say something, tell yourself, fear, hey, listen, I see that you're there, but you know what? This is truth.
Right.
And God has asked us to be a light up on a hill, to not put our light under a bushel.
Right. Yeah. It's how do we overcome that? And it's truly in the faith that we have that he will help guide us to where we need to be when we need to be there.
Yeah. So true. Well, what's your God wink?
What's my God wink? There's a lot. I would say when I first started listening for it, it was before I started my coaching practice. So it was about almost 8 years ago to the month. I was on a fishing trip with my father-in-law and brother-in-law, and we flew into Canada, remote. Yeah, it was remote. Got air landed in on the float planes.
Was there a place to land, or was it just
no? On the water. You landed on the water. Yeah,
Wow.
you landed on the water. You come into your cabin. The cabin has like bear marks on it and everything. It was cool. I mean, it's remote. You had a sat phone. No, the only way in or out was on the plane.
You were in heaven.
It was amazing. It was amazing. And so we were there for a week. And I just remember going out on the boat by myself. Father-in-law and brother-in-law, they went hiking or did something. And I just went out on the boat, middle of the lake, no one around. And just said, God, what am I going to, what am I doing? What am I here for? And it was at that moment, just that nudge to say, you're being called to do something else. You need to leave where you are. And you need to really go work with and do things that help support more people. And what that translated into is the practice that we have today, the coaching practice and consulting practice we have today. But at the time, it was just kind of like, okay, it was abstract. It was like,
what does that look like?
Yeah, what does that really look like? And then through prayer, and at the time we were church dating. So my wife had, said, hey, look, so I was born, raised Catholic, and my wife was like, hey, you love me, you trust me, this church, not for me.
Oh.
And can you come with me to look at these other churches? Okay, fine. So I had so a lot of change going on.
Was it disrupted? Was your family like, how dare you?
My side, my brothers and sisters, not at all. My parents, though, on the other side, well, very rooted in their ways and opinion, and that's okay. They have their thoughts and opinions, and great, and I understand and I recognize that. But for me, making a change in, we'll call it denomination, if you will, yeah, that was needed, and I have grown spiritually from that.
That's cool.
And it's really just amazing when you give in and when you find something that hits you and connects and you lean into that because of, hey, God's got this. He's told me, I've got you. Just do this for me.
Yeah. Obedience, step out.
And
on the boat,
get out,
like the one you're on.
Literally get out the boat and walk. Like there was no walking on no water there. No one's coming to help. That was for sure. So, so through that whole transition of, leaving corporate, changing churches, getting involved, and just kind of giving in, instead of resisting it, giving in and saying, okay, I'm going to give you what I got.
Yeah.
And every day it's more, there's so much more to give.
Yeah.
And we receive so much more when we do that. So that for me was kind of like that first, hey, I got you. And throughout my whole, the last 7 years, it's I would say every few months, either a person is introduced, an event is introduced. So it was last weekend, we did a barbecue. Our church does a barbecue in Pontiac. So we do pulled pork. So I have a tow behind smoker. So we'll come and we'll go into the community, set it up 5 a.m.,
Smoking all day.
Smoking all day. It takes, a little bit of time. So about 3 o'clock, we're smoking. But in the morning, children are coming. And they are actually with us the whole day.
Oh.
And it's just really cool because we're just, just hanging out. We're playing games with them, just having conversations, because that's the one thing those kids want most is just conversations from adults.
Oh.
And so we'll play basketball. We'll, show them how to like pick fruit out of the orchard, and eat fresh fruit off the trees that are there in the orchard that we have.
That's cool.
And it's really cool. And then, serve them food and stuff for lunch. And then we'll serve like a packaged like pulled pork sandwiches with greens, or pulled pork and baked beans, or something like that.
Yeah.
For like around 2-3 o'clock, and we'll serve 150 plates.
Is that like something, a ministry? Which was your church's name again?
Calvary Evangelical Lutheran Church out of Clarkston, Michigan.
Got it.
Yep.
Okay, so this is like a ministry kind of side to it?
So we have property in Pontiac, and so it is kind of like the church without walls.
Okay.
And all it is just to be present in the community and just have conversations. We're not having, it's just to be present for the community that wants to be there, to be served. And we're not having like,
Get into service.
We're not we're not quote unquote, evangelizing and saying, oh, you need to go to our church and all of that. No, because there are churches on every corner around there.
Yeah.
These people go to church. They are people of faith. We're just bringing a different perspective on service.
That's cool.
And just having conversations. So we'll do like blessings in a backpack, and we'll bring the kids. We distributed 35 backpacks. And that was Saturday. And then we distributed 130 plates of food, and some of them go to a homeless shelter. So we pre-played, and everything's done up, and it's just to have conversations with them, listen to them.
Yeah. Be real.
And just, be authentic. Just having authentic conversations with the parents, having authentic conversations with the children. Mm-hmm. And you could be talking about anything. And, some of the conversations are just about, it's just general well-being. Some of them, with the kids, it's like, what are you looking forward to? They start talking to you about their families. They start talking about what their dreams are. What do they want to be?
Wow.
And it's just really
you walk
cool
away going, dang.
Yeah, you're just having conversation. And that's all that is our main point, is just to be there as people of faith, just having conversations, because not everybody's doing that.
No. And there's a lot of churches too out there that sometimes you just find that it's all within the walls.
Correct.
And it says even biblically that he's like, I've not called you to solely just be in the church and not outreach,
right,
not minister to people, not get out of those four walls. Because I think of the church as a gas station. It's where you fill yourself up.
Yeah.
And then you fill up so that you can pour out.
Yes. That's a great analogy. I love it. Absolutely love it.
Yeah. But I've had great leadership. Winston always said, he was like, my heart is that we're more outside of the walls, not just in here. And I remember one parking attendant, whatever we want to call him, a volunteer in the parking.
Yeah.
He got super excited. His name's Eric, and I was watching it happen where a gentleman had come to the church for the first time, and he had met that gentleman at some kind of event in the community the day before. And he's like, I just am so excited that guy came. And he was like, I didn't expect it, but like that should only be more of the icing on the cake.
Yeah.
Not the main motive of when you're out, right? Like this should be, they're attracted to more of the character and the relationship.
Yeah.
The rest, just let it come as it may, as the Lord draws that in.
Right. Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to ask you if there was like one piece that you really want our listeners to take away today. What would you recommend, encourage? What would you empower to them?
So the one thing that I would really recommend to the listeners is really know what your spiritual gifts are. We all have them. And you can read in the Bible. You can actually find different study guides. The ones that I'm familiar with, there are 20 different spiritual gifts. We all have them. Understand what your spiritual gifts are. These are God-given talents that He's given to every single one of us. So what gifts has he given you, and how are you using them to better understand yourself and to lean into the Lord?
That's powerful. I keep hearing more and more about it, like spiritual gifts. I think there's like some kind of assessment. Never taken it.
There is.
Yeah?
Yes, there is, actually. Yep. So I've taken it, but it leans into the Bible passage
Oh.
that I use, that I kind of
Your
now
mantra
for my business, right? And it comes from 1 Peter. It's chapter 4, verse 10. Each of you should use whatever gift you have received to serve others as faithful stewards of God's grace in its various forms. So throughout, and a lot of the spiritual gifts you can find in Corinthians, 1 Corinthians, is where you can find just different little nuggets in the Bible. But it's what are we doing with our spiritual gifts? And so there is an assessment, and I'm going to butcher this name because I don't know the actual how to say it, but it's like the HAUGK Spiritual Gifts Inventory.
Oh.
And they have a guide, they have different things that you can do, and there's 20 different spiritual gifts.
I didn't know that.
Yes, through this assessment. And so my spiritual gifts are discernment, wisdom, visionary and managing leadership, nurturing leadership, and encouragement. Those are my top 5. But ironically, from a business perspective, which I like to focus on, if you follow Patrick Lencioni, he's got the working genius model, and he's Roman Catholic, and he came up with something that kind of is similar to that. And when I took that, my number one thing was discernment.
Really?
But it's in the business sense. Discernment and invention. I love creating new ideas, coming up with new ideas, game planning how it would work, where does it go, things like that.
Yeah.
And then, but I don't like actually, finishing the execution part of it. It's like, let's get the idea going. I get it going. Now let's give it to somebody else because I got to go find something else that's new and go. So, I start a lot of things, but, my bottom ones are, the tenacity and enablement, which is just kind of like let's get this crap finished and pushed through the line.
Yes.
Which I found to be very interesting because it also aligns with other spiritual gifts that are further down that I just don't do as well.
Yeah.
And I have to work on.
Well, wouldn't it be nice if other people took this, whatever assessment?
Yes.
And you could be like, which one of you execute with excellence?
Yes, exactly. Like there's some, so when my wife took it, she's more like of a servant. So that is one of the spiritual gifts is being a servant. And some people view that as like bad, but no, we need people that love to serve. And how does that show up in church? Well, she loves being like helping lead and serving in like with the children's ministry. Nope, I'm out. Hard out. Peace out. No.
Come on.
Nope. That is not. I tried it. I tried small group, large group. Nope.
I love my preschoolers.
Nope. I'm out. Like, God bless those that can do that. My patience level is low. Right? But it takes all different people. So how does our spiritual gifts show up, and how are we using them to enrich ourselves, to kind of help fill us up? Because those top spiritual gifts, those are what we actually need to be poured to fill up.
Yeah.
And then we can then continue to use that and put out, and it's great. But it's not everybody is aware that these spiritual gifts, you can actually understand what they are. You can find them they're usually have a little bit hidden meaning in the Bible. But the Bible is also very intentional about telling you, hey, these are, and I distinctly remember 7. I don't remember the names of the 7 that they have, but I know that majority of them are in 1 Corinthians.
Okay.
Where you can find them. But yeah, that would be the takeaway. Like, know your spiritual gifts, know what they are, and lean into them.
I am doing that just alone, even with the leaders. Like, okay, guys, for my Christian Business Network, we're gonna go through taking this assessment.
Yep, it's really cool. It's something that when I first heard about, I'm like, oh, okay, But then you get the God, it's not a God wink. It's a kick in the rear that says, no, you really need to embrace this. I'm not going to tell you why, but I want you to just lean in. And when you lean in, you get filled up.
Yeah. And I got my kick in the pants because actually two of my leaders, Denise McKibben and Cora Dugan from my Christian Business Network, they actually sent and said, we think this would be great to do during one of our leadership meetings. And then you bring it up. He's like, this is your kick in the pants.
Wink.
Yeah. Ain't that cute? Thanks, Lord.
Right. So yeah, that's for those listening, definitely encourage you. Even if you're kind of like, I don't really know, this dude's a little out there for us. Lean in.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell me, how can our listeners connect with you outside of today?
Outside of today, you can find me on LinkedIn. You can just type in Stephen, Stephen Doyle Jr., and I will pop up pretty close to right at the top on LinkedIn. You can find me online, which is stephendoyle.focalpointcoaching.com, and that's where you'll find my website. And then if for some reason you really want to talk to me, you can call me on my phone. I'm not opposed to that.
Listeners, this is another one that would give you the digits. That's awesome.
I'll give you the digits. It's 248-885-1358. Yes. On the DL.
Podcast.
The podcast is called Blue Collar BS, where we talk about everything in the business from the BS. And the BS can mean whatever you want it to mean, but we really focus on building the strategies for your business.
Oh, I love that. Oh, my gosh. Well, thank you so much, Stephen, for sharing and giving us your wisdom and discernment, man. I hope that discernment shows up for me. I would like to have that, please. But thank you so much for being on today. And
thank you.
Listeners, such amazing God winks we've been sharing. We hope and pray that today blessed you. And if you've never taken the spiritual gifts assessment, check out in the podcast notes the link so that you can do some research and identify what your spiritual gifts are. So that's all now. Have a blessed remainder of the day, and we encourage you to listen on the next God Wink.
I want to give a big thank you to Office Evolution Troy for providing their podcast studio for us this afternoon to record. If you have any questions or you would like to book your own time in their podcast studio, give them a call at 586-788-9966. If today's God Wink story really hit home with you, we would love to hear about it through the God Wink community on Facebook. If you know of someone that needs to hear today's God Wink story, show them some love and tag them on the God Wink podcast. You never know how a God Wink story might change their day around for the better. If you or someone you know has a God Wink story that the world needs to hear, we want to hear it. Simply click the link within the podcast notes to send in your God Wink story. Until next time, remember, God's got you. Wink, wink.